Hey guys, welcome to the homestead. So the kids are busy starting on their schoolwork and other projects, and I'm looking at the temperature, and look at that. Is that backwards? It's backwards on my phone. I don't know.
87 degrees.
Well, it says 87 degrees. I'm looking at my screen. It says it's backwards. It's 9:30, and it's already 87 degrees. It's going to be hot today. Hottest day of the year. Definitely over 100. So we're going to talk about the heat today. 88. We're going to talk about the heat today. Hey guys, welcome to the homestead. So it's definitely hot today, and we're down at the creek. So this is what you do when you don't have air conditioning. And the kids are way down there. I'm not worried about them being so far away, because from there all the way down it's really super shallow. So really super shallow. Down here it gets pretty deep in some places. Then it gets shallow again, and I don't really explore much down there. But this is the deep end. That is from about here on down. It's all very shallow, and they like to play in the rapids down there because it's pretty fast moving. But again, it's like shallow, like only like a few inches deep in some places. I think maybe a foot deep, and as much as a foot deep in other places. So it doesn't get very deep. What's that, buddy? Yeah? He says that the water's moving really fast. Anyways, listen to what we do during the summer. Come down here when it's hot, when the humidity is just unbearable, and I sit here and I pan for gold. And I'm not kidding you, I pan for gold. There's actually gold in this. If you look at some of the gold maps online, there is very small amounts of gold that you can find in northwest Arkansas. It's mostly flour gold, and I usually keep it in a vial like this. So it's impossible to show you on camera, so I can't show you, but there is flour gold inside that vial. The vial is filled with water, so it allows you to see it better. But there's flour gold that I have found in this creek. Oh, you want me to put that on for you? All right, hold on. Let me pause the video. Anyway, so that's what I do. I just try to find the bedrock that's in here, and then I try to find the gravel and sand, and I pan it out, and that's where I find the little tiny pieces of flour gold that I keep and I put in that vial. Anyway, so we just drive down here close to the creek and park and get wet. So last couple days it's been pretty hot at night. You know, it's usually in the house, stays about 80 degrees, gets down to like high 70s, and you know, it is what it is. Some people ask, you know, what do you do without air conditioning because we live off grid? I think that's probably the hardest thing for people, is the air conditioning. Probably what's the other hardest thing? I would probably think laundry. We do have a solar powered washing machine now that we've gotten recently. After Jamie was in the hospital, we decided to go ahead and get a solar powered laundry machine, washing machine, and I think because it does add additional power needs for the homestead, so I think we're looking at maybe expanding one of our solar banks that's handling that, because it's kind of a lot to handle. Because there's just so many other things on that system, like a refrigerator, or a freezer, and other things that we have, a solar powered freezer. But I think that's probably the hardest thing, is the air conditioning. And I think some people need to understand that. I think we forget, because we don't know history, and because it's in the here and now, we don't understand things that took place back in the past. 60 years ago, guys, 60 years ago, just 60 years ago, that's not a lot. That's a lifetime for some people, a short lifetime for some people. 60 years ago, nobody had air conditioning. It just didn't exist. I mean, unless you were super rich, or it was a facility or something like that, and they had some of the primitive, but really modern air conditioning for the average American home didn't exist 60 years ago. That to me is amazing. My father made his living as an HVAC repairman. He started his own company, and you know, even I remember as a kid, after he started his business, it was even years before our home, you know, had an air conditioner, because it was something that only, you know, people who were truly had extra money could afford to get, you know, to have for their home. And so what did you do? You just sweat. You sweat, and that was just, that was summer. And I think we've forgotten that. And this year, I don't know. I mean, this year was a pretty mild summer, I think, in most respects. We've had a lot of rain. It seemed like it's rained. I mean, we didn't go maybe 2 weeks without a rainfall all summer. It just rained the other day. I mean, the creek is up right now. It's pretty high compared to what it normally is during the summer. I think people forget that air conditioning is something that is very recent in our lifetimes and in our parents' lifetimes. And I think kids today forget that, when we go without it and the electric is cut off in the middle of summer. I remember when I was in college in Florida and Hurricane Charlie, I think, came through. And my goodness, this is why no one lived in Florida before the 1950s. And I know some people said, Zach, that's not true. No, it is true. For the most part, it is true. People didn't live in Florida before the 1950s because that's when air conditioning began to be popular. And, so some of the resorts and some of the areas, big places down there started to get air conditioners. But, it really wasn't available to the average everyday American Joe Schmo's home until like the 1970s and 1980s. And so 1950s, Disney, the theme parks, all these stuff started to kick off and people, started to move to Florida. But before that, no one was there. It was funny. I used to have a running joke. When I lived in Florida, it's like when you went to Disney back then in Florida, you'd have the workers, all the workers of Disney, all the Disney workers, employees, had their name tags on, and then the town where they were from on their name tag. And none of them were from Florida because people aren't from Florida. It's so amazing. People who live in Florida aren't from Florida. Now, today that may be different. Today, there's generations of people who were born in Florida, raised in Florida. But back then, it was rare. It's like, I remember, because I went to college there, and I'd meet someone, oh, you were born in Florida? Wow, that's not normal. And they'd say, yeah, I know. It's just, anyway, I guess my point is that, and even Daniel Boone, I've quoted this before, Daniel Boone visited Florida. He said that'd be a nice place to visit, but not a great place to live. And so he promptly left Florida. It's just a malaria disease-infested swamp. That's what Florida is. Before people moved there, before air conditioning. So what did people do before air conditioning? They did this. What those kids down there are doing. They're getting wet. They did that. They got wet. That is really refreshing right now. I just jumped in before I started filming. But man. What would you do if your air conditioner was turned off tomorrow? What would you do if the power was turned off, if the grid went down, and it wasn't coming back on? I think some of us would just want to die. It's because we're not used to this. This year was a mild summer, and I've gotten every year since we've moved out here, I've gotten better because I don't like the heat. I can't stand the heat. I love the wintertime. I want the cold. And Jamie is fine with being hot. She is fine with the tropics. She was basically born in Southern California, lived a lot of her life in Papua New Guinea, which is the tropics. You want to guess what that car was? It was a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Obviously, that guy has engine problems. Anyway, some people around here crack me up. Anyway, so Jamie loves the heat. I hate the heat. I'm looking forward to every year when September, October rolls around because it's finally, the heat's going away. But now I'm getting a little bit more used to it. This year wasn't so bad, but it was also a mild summer. A very mild summer for our area. I think I've seen temperatures of 100 maybe once or twice. Mostly it was in the 90s and 80s as the highs. But Yeah. What would you do if you didn't have AC? Go look up the history of air conditioning. It's a very interesting topic. A lot of information there. A lot of things you could learn. And then you think about, you know, how people lived before. For thousands of years, people lived without air conditioning. Or they just didn't live in places where it got so hot that you couldn't grow anything, you couldn't, you know, survive comfortably for most of the year. But today, people inhabit places like Tucson, Arizona, or places in Phoenix, Arizona, and Santa Fe, New Mexico, or Las Vegas, Nevada, or Orlando, Florida, Miami. I mean, those places weren't inhabited 100 years ago. Not like they are today. Not even close. It's like the difference between shooting a bullet and throwing one. If you lost your air conditioner tomorrow, what would you do? How would you live? You'd be living at the closest body of water you could find during the hottest times of the year. All right, I'll leave it at that. Just thought I'd do a video. I'm gonna go pan for some gold. All right, guys. See you next time in the homestead. Bye. Hey there, thanks for watching our channel. If you're looking for great off-grid homesteading videos, this is the channel for you. Hit that subscribe button and be sure to like the video you just watched. You can also feel free to send us your questions by going to anamericanhomestead.com on our contact page and send me your question. Your question might get made into a video. In the meantime, check out some of these other great videos. Oh wait, go ahead and click them. Go ahead.